What's up, guys? It's Coach Gaglione here. We have another edition of the Powerlifting for the People podcast. We've got Coach Benny here. He's our head coach here at Gaglione Strength. He helps run the show when I'm not around and kind of runs all our programs, gets everyone kind of together. He's also got, we're going to talk a little bit about like kind of how he got started in the field, how he kind of got to the point where he's like working here with us. So how you doing today, Ben?
Good.
So can you just introduce yourself really quick and just tell people watching or listening a little bit about what you got going on right now, and then we'll kind of rewind a little bit and talk about how you kind of got started.
Yeah, so my name's Nick Benarakis, a.k.a. Bench and Benny, social media, a.k.a. Coach Ben. And I'm a coach here at Gaglione Strength in Long Island, New York. Just moved down here a while back. Started working here. It's been great. A lot of people don't have the opportunity to really make a career around lifting, but I've been really blessed in that capacity to be able to, coach pretty much full time. So
very cool, and always making advancements. So I want to rewind a little bit, and even before like kind of we met, we interacted, but tell people watching a little bit like just like kind of how you got into lifting. Maybe the first time you touched a barbell, what that was like, and then like what was the progression like moving forward from there?
All right, so yeah, when I first started lifting, it was really probably in my basement with my dad, and he would have to try to force me to get down there just because it was so cold, and that's like the last thing I wanted to do,
Yes.
lifting in a cold basement.
And from Massachusetts, for people that don't know,
so
a little bit, northeast, definitely cold.
It gets cold, and I didn't take to it at first, so my dad's really surprised now just how much like I'm invested into lifting and whatnot. But as I got older and probably near the end of high school, I was a hefty kid, and in the combination of gym class, baseball, and I started lifting more regularly at home, I started seeing like a lot of weight loss, and that kind of really sparked my love for the gym, and I was the strongest kid in gym class, so that was a cool feeling. So I just kind of took to it from there. I guess I didn't really know what the hell I was doing at first, like most people. I was just kind of doing the machines and stuff that we had at the gym, doing the free weight exercises I did know. I was actually pretty self-conscious at first going into like commercial gym like UMass with all the kids around, because if you don't know what you're doing, it can be you get a little bit self-conscious of that because everyone else got their thing going on and you don't really know what you're doing. And, but you learn as you watch people, as you read up on things, as you just gain experience. And it led me to interning down here. It was actually my first internship anywhere. And I learned so much, got to lift with a really good crew, and I learned the whole powerlifting side of things, and I found it to be a good competitive outlet for me coming from a baseball background, and I just kind of rolled with it from there.
Yeah, I had a similar story, playing football and wrestling growing up. I don't know if you remember, I know the first time I touched a barbell was like in 8th grade, and I remember it was like on one of those, not Toys R Us, but like maybe like a little like very small, narrow uprights, those old school benches, you could barely fit on. I remember struggling with like 80 pounds. Do you remember like what you did the first time you got on the bench?
Oh, I couldn't do the bar.
I couldn't even do the bar. So.
Well, I'm going way back, but I remember a time when my dad was helping me on the bench, and I just couldn't do the bar. It was just swinging everywhere, so I had to stick with some light dumbbells, and I probably was handling like 10 pounders.
Very cool. So what kind of made you, like, obviously, you're getting more interested in training. What made you decide to intern here, and then like what like kind of attracted you to kind of come learn a little bit more and just kind of invest in your education and stuff like that?
So I was a kinesiology major at UMass, and I was kind of figuring out what I was going to do after school, because I really didn't know what I was going to do, and I realized, being a junior at this point, you got to start
figure out
something, or I'm just going to be left with a degree and nothing to do. So, my girlfriend, she had an internship at Enterprise, and she was doing really well with that, so she kind of had that direction. And from talking with her and whatnot, I just was like, I got to start doing some internships. So I pretty much Googled everything I could. I knew like I had the option of coming down to New York because I could live with her, or I Googled even things in Florida, pretty much like everywhere. Like I didn't care. I just wanted to do something. I would have went there, and I had a huge list of things that I was gonna choose from, and I remember talking with you on the phone, and you had all these nationally ranked powerlifters and whatnot. And being really invested in lifting myself, and I did my first meet by then. I thought that was really cool and something that I could do as well through my lifting, a place where I could grow too as a lifter. So I put those other strength conditioning internships aside, and I decided to come down here for the summer, and really glad I did.
Yeah, it's kind of seemed like just like the timing of everything, and then obviously with your girlfriend at the time, I guess now fiance.
The timing was really good because I actually had one like lined up, and then I actually emailed you, and I was like, hey, I'm just wondering, what, because I didn't actually hear from you at the time, and then you invited me down to the Donnie Thompson seminar, which was awesome. So I came down to that, and then I told the other guy, I'm sorry, something else came up, and then I came over here.
Super D, so I guess you could thank Super D too. That was good stuff. Yeah, I mean, we've been fortunate. We've had, one of the things I think we pride ourselves on is always educating, always learning, and I think that was good. So I think that's like great. So, obviously you went through the internship program. I know I remember personally, one of the things I thought was great about you is that you competed in some of our meets. You always trying to also get stronger yourself. I remember when you first came, it was like that kind of quest for that like 315 bench. Like that was like the big thing, and it was like a very long, very long road. So, what's like one of the things that continues to drive you to, I guess, keep competing, keep getting better, keep learning? Like what's like the motivation?
Pretty much just the fact that I coach and I want to be a good, competent coach and do that pretty much till forever. I don't really have anything else I'm really desiring to do. I just want to be a really good coach, and I enjoy seeing people get into the sport. I enjoy more the beginning aspect when people first come in than cool. High level. I like seeing people just jump into it for the first time. But that's really what I'd say drives me. It's just, it's hard to gain someone's respect if you haven't like been there and done that. Why listen to this guy if I'm doing way more than him? What does he have to offer me? So I always kind of just like our saying there, lead from the front. That's really what drives me to keep pushing it.
Yeah, I think that's big, and not necessarily, if there's coaches or trainers watching this, not to say that you have to be like the best in the world. Like I said, I'm sure, I think they said Michael Jordan was like one of the worst coaches, they said. But then you have these other guys maybe, that were mediocre, and they had to work really hard, and they had to figure out those things that really make you tick. And it's funny now, going back when we first met, you were kind of struggling with the 315 bench and missing that consistently. And now that's just like a warm up for you, and you just hit, just to kind of recap, you hit a 705 bench. So you did your first real big meet, I would say. I don't think that was probably your first big national meet.
It's much bigger than that. It was a big stage.
Yeah,
cool.
On the main stage of the Arnold, the Bench Freak show. You went 3 for 3, and I guess you took second overall.
In the heavies, but I guess overall by weight.
Very cool. So you hit a 705 shirted bench. So obviously moving forward a little bit, you've made a lot of progress up until this point. You've been really dedicated to your own training, which has been great. And I think people here really respect that. So, tell us a little bit about what that journey has been like. Maybe a little bit about the equipped lifting and why that you were attracted to that, and what was the training has been like. I guess more like the past couple of years. Because I know this is probably maybe a milestone you were kind of working toward for maybe the last year and a half, really kind of pushing toward it.
Yeah. So I came in here. I hit 300-pound bench in my first meet, and then that road to just get 3 plates down was, it took a while, and I was stuck at 3 plates once I got there for another year. So, it's just a good example that, you got to really stick with it for a while, and then, once things start coming together, you start figuring things out. It's always a learning process. Then you can make big jumps, but don't get frustrated.
Build some momentum once you kind of get rolling.
yeah, don't get frustrated if you're just stuck for a while. You know, it's a learning process. But yeah, I hit the 315 here. That was like really huge for me. I wanted to get those 3 plates on the bar. And then I just kept building from there. Kind of took to the benching side of things. I did see how they had this bench show a couple of years back, and you know, I've been in attendance every year since. And it was always something I had in my mind, just because that's the lift I really took to, just because I got some really favorable leverages and whatnot for the bench press. So I knew it was something I could push in the future. So I really dedicated my training around that. And you know, things started coming together. I went and I gained some body weight too, put on some body weight to help me with that. And yeah, just started pushing numbers, keep growing, and then I threw on a bench shirt. That was something I really wanted to do. You know, seeing guys like Vinny DiZenzo, I was actually at his meet when he did 900.
Yeah,
I was competing in that.
Vinny's been a big influence on both of us, and it's really cool to have him. And I think you were at, we also saw him bench his last 600 raw, I think, at that RPS meet as well, which was really cool to see. So it's really been cool. And then he's also like, you know, not to go off on too much of a tangent, he's also like kind of made a big transformation in his health and stuff recently. But
oh yeah, definitely. And yeah, he's just been, it was really cool seeing him put up like that much weight. Yeah. And then I was like, this is something I want to do, you know, and a lot of the guys that were training here at the time had equipment as well. And I just thought it was cool, the weight they're handling, and I wanted to learn it. So I just started learning it over time. Kind of took to it pretty quick because I don't have a long, you know, I have pretty short stroke, so it's a little easier for me to get down. And I just took off with that. And we've just been making progress ever since. Switched from single over to multi.
good progression.
Yep, and yeah, just that now we're at this point right now.
Yeah, I want to highlight a couple of things maybe kind of brushed over, but I think a lot of times, whether not just be training, but in life, career, and all this stuff, and this is something I've been learning with myself, we're always taught like you got to bring up your weakness, and I think to the point that's true. But like you said, you're like, oh, you know, the bench always came a little more naturally to you than like say the deadlift, for example. The squats always come a little bit more natural to me. That's like kind of more my favorite lift. And while I think that, yeah, I think 3-lift powerlifting is cool. What the really cool thing about powerlifting is if you wanted to do a push-pull or a single lift, or even as you get older, maybe for whatever reason you can't squat to depth because of certain injuries or things like that, or there's even people, you know, like in Paralympics and stuff, that maybe have people powerlifting with one leg and things like that. So maybe you have some limitations, but there's always something you could do, and there's probably something that you are probably a little bit more naturally good at. And there's nothing wrong with just focusing on your strength. And I think people that are really, really successful tend to maximize their strengths to the fullest, and I think that there's nothing wrong with that. And I think it's, of course, you don't always want to neglect your weaknesses, especially if it's something that's like important. You don't want to make excuses, obviously. But especially if you want to take something really far and you want to do it for a long period of time, success breeds success. And if you can really focus on your strength and keep building that, I think that's definitely a more enjoyable road, and I think you can kind of take that really far. So I definitely wanted to highlight that. So maybe like, yeah, so maybe, you know, hey, benching is your strong point, and maybe like you still train the other lifts, but it's maybe not at your main priority. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Maybe we might joke, you know, whatever. You might bust your chops about not deadlifting a lot or whatever, but it's all in good fun. But I think that at the end of the day, maybe that 705 bench wouldn't have happened as quickly as it did if you were trying to kind of, you know, quote unquote, like ride 2 horses at the same time or serve 2 masters, and you're trying to focus on too many other things. While as, okay, well, this is my main goal, so why not go like all in and do everything I can in my power? So I think that's important. So it kind of comes back down to what you want to achieve. But I think it's something to kind of know, whether it's maybe a job or whatever. I know, like for myself, you know, hiring some people to take care of more administrative stuff, more social media type stuff. It's one of the reasons why, you know, you guys hopefully can see the quality of the information and the content's been up, because I have people that are Elvis behind the camera right now that's helping out with things like that. Because that's not, for me, like I'm a coach first. I know, like, you know, same thing with you. So that's like not my like best like ability. So I could spend more time doing stuff that I'm really not good at, or I can kind of pass it off to someone else and just focus on what I'm truly passionate about. So definitely wanted to kind of like highlight that. I think that's important, to focus on your strength and take that as far as you can.
Yeah, you get what you get out of training. You know, if you want to push something, then you're probably going to get a little bit better at it. The bench comes pretty naturally to me, so it's always something that kind of took off, and I've had a good awareness of it. But something like deadlift I really struggle with, but I did do a full power meet last year at the Arnold as well, and in that time I knew it was a weakness, so I really prioritized it, and I made the best deadlift gains yet.
Yeah.
I was pushing for 600, and so it's really, you get what you put into the training. So if you're just weak at something, just put a little more time and effort into that and analyze what's going on, and you'll get rewarded by that. So just don't get frustrated if your one lift's not coming up, because you never know when it's going to jump up on you.
Yeah, I think that's big, and I think also just like how you approach it. Like I know this, especially, I'd say this is more common with the women, but it could be, and I know even with myself, like I always was taught, like, you know, because I've grown up with sports, like squat was like the most important. That's the cornerstone of everything you do, and I think even though that was always into my head, and I never trained bench as serious as I should have until like later on. I know Jen Thompson talks about this a lot too. It's like a lot of women will say like poverty bench and this stuff, and like you're setting yourself up for failure. Like even if it's maybe that is a weakness, like just focus on doing the best you can and put in that effort, and it will get better over time. Everyone's gonna have like a different starting point, and you know, we always say like it's not about like the hand you're dealt, it's how you play your cards. You can't worry about genetics, you can't really worry about leverages. So those kind of questions kind of drive me nuts sometimes, because it's like you can't like change your like limb length.
Yeah.
It's like nothing you can do about it. Well, you can't, but you can put on muscle. You can change your technique. You can optimize your leverages. You can figure out an appropriate training frequency and program. Get a good coach like this. Those are things that are in your control. So I think that's definitely important. Yeah, and just if something is, you want to bring up something and that's important to you, just put in the effort, put in the time, and just be patient. So I want to kind of go through a couple other questions. If you had to, have you had any like kind of setbacks in your training, maybe injuries, and then what did you kind of like do to like overcome, or like maybe a plateau or something?
Yeah, so I've been really fortunate in that regard. I've never had a serious injury, even in sports. Never a surgery, never a tear. I've been really, really lucky in that regard. And, you know, I think that's a testament to just smart training, not pushing the limits all the time. So, you know, that's been a blessing, not having to worry about a really major setback. But there's been times when, you know, like, for example, I was stuck at 315 bench
It's not moving for a bit.
for a year. You know, it's really easy to get frustrated at that. And, but, you know, you just got to keep your head down and keep pushing. So I'd say probably just not seeing some progression on lifts, probably my biggest setback. And that's really fortunate to say, because I know a lot of people, you know, with injuries, it's a really huge thing to overcome, even just mentally, not even physically, just mentally getting back into it after something like that. I know people that had like pec tears and they're like nervous as hell to bench again, and you know, that's not a great place to be. So you know, I've been just fortunate in that regard. But
I think that's one of the things that we've kind of preached all along, and sometimes we maybe have lost sight of it, but it's always like kind of a cornerstone is like that longevity, and maybe like leaving a little in reserve.
Definitely.
And I don't think that we're conservative in our approach as far as weight on the bar or even attempt selection. I think we're somewhere in between. But we just try to we always try and keep people safe. And there's like a point where like, there's times where you need to push, and there's times where you need to hit the gas. But listen to your body and be smart, obviously, you know. I think that we're pretty fortunate that people stay relatively healthy, and I think that's definitely been some of, you know, one of the reasons why I think that for the high level people that we do work with, one of the things I always comment is how much better they feel, say like on our style program versus maybe some other ones that are out there. Not to say that others are good, bad, or indifferent, but that's just kind of our training philosophy. And I think, you know, could you maybe get stronger a little bit faster with maybe pushing the intensity or the frequency a little bit more? Sure, but I know that you've been kind of lifting for a long time. You know, since you were young, I've been, you know, just powerlifting, not including sports training, for over 12 years. And to do something for over a decade, like, you have to have some sort of kind of like long-term approach like in mind. So I think that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, there's always another meet. So especially when you're feeling beat up in training,
that's true.
There's always another one. But if you beat yourself up, then not only are you going to come into the meet beat up, you're not going to do as good, but now you're setting yourself up for you know, major injury probably down the road. So.
Yeah, take your time, be patient. Another question I always like to ask, if you had maybe someone's watching and they're just starting out, I know we kind of maybe alluded to some of this already, but if someone's starting out, they're getting into powerlifting, maybe some advice, or even if you could go back in time and talk to a young Ben, what would you say to those people?
I always tell everyone to start with consistency. You know, whether that's, you know, coming into the gym at consistent times, finding consistent training times, but then even taking it a step further and take your entire approach to a lift consistently. You know, make it, if you're going to film yourself and you're going to watch each set, they should all look exactly identical. I mean, that's the goal at the end. But finding that consistency is really huge. And then again, we said patience. I think patience is always a huge trait to have, because, you know, you can easily get frustrated in this. Like, at first you probably make quick gains, but that's not going to last forever. And you're really going to have to exercise patience if you want to have longevity in this game.
Yeah, I think that's really, really big. You know, when you're setting up, when you're learning, especially I think sometimes with newer people, you know, sometimes either A, they're not paying attention to maybe their setup at all, and they only worry about it once it gets too heavy, or on the other side, they're like just changing stuff too much. It's like, let me move my pinky toe, let me move my grip out like a hip. Like, just stick with something for a little bit, dial that form and that setup in, see how it works, maybe do it for a couple of months, you know, and then see if it works for you. I think if you're switching things too often, that can be problematic. Also, like Benny said, whether it's the empty bar, you know, I know one of the things I think that, you know, Benny does a really good job of is even if it's the 45-pound bar or if it's 700 on the bar, he's setting up with the same intent. It's a skill. You got to treat each lift like a skill. And I think if you do that and you are consistent and you keep dialing that setup over and over again, the better start you're going to yield a better finish. And then I think also too, as you get stronger, you're not really worried so much about potentially 700, falling on your throat or something like that. You can't have that fear. You know, you have to just focus on execution. So whether it's 1,000 pounds or 45 pounds, you're just focused on execution. You're not really worried about the weight at that point. And I think if you watch any good lifter, you can kind of see if you kind of take the plates away, and you can't really tell if it's their opener or if their third attempt. A lot of times, every set is very mechanical. It's very similar. There's a process to it. So I think that's definitely a mark of a really good lifter. Just consistency is big. So I think that's definitely a good kind of place, I think, to leave off. I think we'll definitely, obviously, have you on again. This was good. We're trying to highlight some of the more local people. And like I said, Benny's been a great asset to our gym. We're very fortunate to have him here. It's nice to have someone that walks the walk and gets it. There's a lot of coaches out there, and I think it's great to have knowledge and all this stuff, but there's something about that under the bar experience that you really can't learn in a textbook. There's a lot of theories, but then there's actually what we put into practice in real life, I think, is super valuable. So definitely fortunate to have him. So if people are watching and listening, where can people find more about what you do? And what you have?
I have another business called Big Benches, and you can find that on YouTube. We have bigbenches.com, my website, and then social media at Big Benches, and then my personal one's Bench of Benny, if you want to see what I'm up to in training.
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. If this interview helped you, please share it. Make sure you subscribe on iTunes. Give us a 5-star review. It helps other people find us. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.